All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. And a couple, folks can join us a few minutes in. I want to welcome you to our first Summer Learning Series session. My name is Danny Rubin. I'm the founder of our company. We are called Rubin, R-U-B-I-N, for those of you who are new to us. And we provide online curriculum and instruction for business communication skills. So for those of you who are new to us, we help students with their email etiquette. We've talked about that a lot over the past several months, helping students not send emails like text messages. And we do a phone etiquette and networking skills and resumes, which we'll cover in a future topic, and leadership communication, all kinds of things. And today we're covering virtual presentation skills, helping students learn how to communicate at their best in these types of settings. Because even though the world will hopefully get back to a little bit of normal in the fall, we know there's still going to be all kinds of opportunity for virtual presentations. I want to say another introduction to my colleague, Mac Dowd, who is our implementation specialist at our team, helping schools use different topics we provide in their learning management systems. Mac, if you want, you can turn off the camera and hang out in the chat.
All right.
And if there are questions, she'll be there to answer as we go. And those of you who just joined a moment ago, feel free to say hello in the chat. Tell us who you are, what you teach, or your reason for coming today around this particular topic. And as you do that, I'll get started. As we always do, we always like to offer some free resources to the participants. And we have some new material today, different from what we've been offering over our student-focused webinars in the spring. By the way, show of hands, how many people attended one of our student webinars, our virtual internship webinars this past school year? See some hands. Thank you so much for coming, for being a part of that experience. We had such great attendance and so many great conversations. In the chat, let me know, for those of you who attended, what was one of the topics that really stuck with you? One of the careers that we covered? And hi, Janet, for coming from Farmington High School. Great to have you. What was that? We talked to a Hollywood film producer. We talked to somebody on a cattle ranch. We talked to so many interesting people about the work that they do, nursing. Thank you, Karen Lynn. That's right. We always try to align with CTE standards. That's right. So yeah, if any of one of those topics really caught your eye over the past few months, let us know, because we're going to do more of those sessions in the fall. So Bethany, make sure you're doing all panelists and attendees so everyone can see that we did a social media marketing person who worked for MTV, just like really, really cool people. And we're going to do it again in the fall. But right now it's all about helping you get your PD, teaching you some skills you can relate to the students. And to help that cause, thank you very much. To help that cause, we put together another collection of resources in a Google folder. This time it's all about virtual presentation skills. And we're going to touch on these skills by and large today, but we're going to give you the resources in a folder. And yes, the Brandy's question, all of our webinars are on our website. Mac, if you don't mind, rubineducation.com/webinars. All of our resources are there, all of our past webinars and the recordings, our worksheets, the links to sign up for our upcoming ones this summer. Everything's on one page. So we'll get that out to the group. You can hold on to it. So we put together this folder for etiquette for presentations and sitting versus standing, display names, virtual video interviews, storytelling, all these topics that we're going to touch on today. We'll have them in a folder for you, and we'll pass them along after the fact. Thank you, Mac, for sending that around. We've also, this is something we've been sharing along the way, but it's apropos for our topic today. It's a checklist for how to give effective online presentations, kind of like a quick reminder one sheet that we encourage teachers and students to have next to their computer before they go live, right? So about how to prepare for the moment, how to speak, how to deliver, quick hit reminders to give effective presentations. So we have all of this material provided and prepared in a Google folder. So those of you who have been here before, or if you're new, this is really for anybody. And what we'd love to do for the new folks, especially, but for anybody right now, please type interested and your email address in the chat. Okay, interested in the chat. And then we will pass this along, all these resources. And for the new people, the ones who are here for the first time, getting familiar with us, we love to have a really short phone call, find 5 minutes in the summer, well, really in the next couple of days, ideally, just to say hello, help you bring this content into your classroom, your program. It's all free, but we want to help you make the most of it. So it's a brief conversation because we can't talk like we would prefer in a conference setting, which those are coming back, right? Back to real life events, but please provide your email address and the word interested, and we'll get that to you very soon. It's just a 5-minute phone call for the new folks, and then you'll know exactly what to do with it. I also want to mention, as we've been doing this lately, some people will watch us on a recording. So if you're watching this on a recording and you'd like this material, you'll email support@rubineducation.com with the subject line Rubin Worksheets, and we will pass that material along after the fact. But for the folks today, we can actually set up a conversation, and that's always nicer. But for the recording audience, that's also available to you. Now, a couple other points to mention, and we will get into our topic for the day. And thank you for everybody putting your emails in there. That's great. We have another session coming up. As you know, we're doing this all summer. Darla Haskins says she's signed up for all 6, which is great. So our next one is topic number 2. We're covering resume and cover letter. And we talk about that a lot in our material, in our sessions. How do you make an exceptional resume and cover letter using your words in ways others might not? And that's going to be on June 16th, 2 weeks from today. There are every other Wednesday, 11:30 in the morning, 8:30 Pacific time. So we're going to dive into resumes and cover letters in 2 weeks from now. And by the way, we as a company, we listened closely. We did a survey. We said, when do you want to do these sessions? By and large, the group said Wednesdays at 11:30 Eastern, 8:30 Pacific. So that's what we do. We listen to you. So please join us then. We've already put out the link a couple of times. We'll send a reminder. And also, of course, because I know what you all came for, the knowledge, yes, but also that certification that you were here. So we're going to send out a certificate in the morning, tomorrow morning, showing that you were here. It was an hour. You'll even be able to put your name on it. We've updated these so you can have your name to the certificate, and it'll be yours to show proof that you were here and you were picking up your PD time early in the summer, getting it out of the way. So look for this certificate tomorrow morning as well. Okay. So it's all coming your way. This is sort of, we never stop rolling over here, and we want to continue to give good resources to help you in your educational journey, your teaching journey, wherever you are right now over the summer. So let me hop off here, and I'll share my screen in a moment. We'll go into our session today on virtual presentation skills. I do think for the people who are new here, you may have heard or not heard my background. So you have some context around where is this instruction coming from. So for those of you who have not heard, so prior to working in educational curriculum development, I was a TV news reporter for a CBS news station in Virginia. So I was covering local news every day, having a story ready by 5 o'clock. And look, just tell me in the chat, what would be your answer here? If you're watching local news or anything on TV and it's boring, something on TV is boring, what do you do next? Can you tell me in the chat? What do you do next if it's boring? You change the station, you ignore it. You change the channel, turn the channel. Thank you for all of your responses. So find something more entertaining, Samantha says. I like that too. So what I've learned from that time in television is if you're not interesting, the audience is going to leave. Now, do you see some similarities between that experience and someone going through a stack of job applications? Raise your hand if you see some similarities there between watching, you're flipping the channel and flipping through resumes, right? Or flipping through emails or flipping through LinkedIn profiles or whatever it is, right? So essentially this material that we're talking about today in our broader program, we're teaching students how to be as interesting as possible, memorable as possible, their most authentic self, so that they keep that audience person engaged as long as possible. So they're the ones who get the call back. They get the interview. They get the opportunity because they communicated better. right? So it's coming out of real world best practice into the classroom to help students going any which way how to stand out through their words. Okay, so that's the background, the context around what we're learning today, what we're going to learn all summer and even into next school year. Okay, so it's always important, and we teach students all the time, context is critical. Doesn't it help to have some background to then know where all these puzzle pieces fit? Raise your hand if you think having background information allows everything to make more sense in your head. I think so too. So hopefully that little background gave you a roadmap of where we're going. All right, so let me share my screen and we'll get into our topics today. Get my chat going again. Turn off the TV and read a book. Turn it off and it will never come back. That's possible, right? Once we close that door, we don't know if it's going to open again. So thank you for all of your comments. And you'll see what I'm getting at here. I'm asking you to answer a lot of questions, and we're going to talk about exactly why I'm doing that in just a few minutes, because it plays right into our theme today of virtual presentations. So before we dive into that, I do want to spend just 1 minute for those of you who are uninitiated here that, okay, this Rubin company, who's this Rubin company? They do these free webinars. Beyond that, we also provide to K-12 and post-secondary an online curriculum called Emerge, which I know some of you here have used in previous semesters. And it's an online library of lessons, readings, videos, exercises, digital badges that teach a variety of communication skills. But thank you, Samantha says, context helps to build commonality in relationship building. Thank you very much. Make sure it's all panelists and attendees for all your comments. So briefly, we teach students in a variety of formats for middle school, for transition, for high school, for college, for adult education, how to write emails appropriately, how to meet new people, hold conversation, how to use the phone for business and careers, video etiquette, which we're going to talk a lot about that today, virtual presentation and video etiquette. We also do networking skills, resumes, cover letters, we're going to get into that on the 16th, internship and job outreach, emails, LinkedIn profile creation, job interview prep. We also do entrepreneurial communication skills, business development, business idea development, sales writing, website writing, which is like writing about a student business on your website, or writing an e-portfolio, how to write, how to communicate, speak and write. That's what we do. Public relations, like writing a press release to the student newspaper. Hey, do a story on our student startup. Fundraising communication skills. And we do communication for leadership, writing for managers, writing to clients, project management, public speaking, writing reports and exercises for student leaders. We have any advisors here today from different CTSOs in your high schools or on your college campus? Let us know if you're an advisor in the chat. So we are a big library of how-tos, practical content that integrates to your learning management system. Canvas, Google Classroom, Schoology, Blackboard, Moodle, whatever you're on, it can live in your platform, single sign-on. Students can work on skills. So we're going to be working out of our material today with some specific topics related to virtual presentations. But again, I wanted to give you some background again on where this content is coming from. Context is everything. And thank you for those commenting. We have HOSA here. We have Skills USA and TSA. We have DECA, 4-H Club Committee Advisor. So great. And thank you, Diana. Diana, make sure you do all panelists and attendees so we can all see your comments. So with that said, let's get into our topics today. So the first thing that we're going to cover, and let me turn off my screen, I'll share it again in a minute. The first thing we're going to cover is just the general dynamics of giving an online presentation, okay? Tell me what you see about me right now. Am I in the frame, right? There's not a lot of, I'm not like this, right? I'm not like that. And what am I wearing? What did I wear today for my virtual presentation? Tell me what I'm looking like. Professionally dressed, okay? You look professional. Hey, and right, isn't looking professional half the battle, right? It's how you look, right? We all like to say, don't judge a book by its cover. Don't we all? We say don't do that, but do we do that? Do we judge books by their cover? We do it all the time. It's human nature, right? Now, not only that, but the lighting is even. You can see my face. You can hear me. I'm looking at you. And what have I been doing since we've started? Yeah, below the shoulders, there. You see me from right here. It's an appropriate length. You don't see like half my body or my entire body or just from right here. And Brandy says, engaging in the standing part. We'll get to that in a minute. So what have I been doing with you the entire time since you joined at, 11:23 or whatever time you popped in here? What have I been doing with you? Constantly, like every 30 seconds. What am I doing? What am I doing right now? Asking questions, checking in, asking questions. I am constantly asking you to engage with me. Now, I would recommend this same strategy when you're in person too. Now, I want you to use these techniques in these discussion today for your own class. You can share this with students, but I wanted to help you teach. How many of you next year will be teaching in person 100%? How many of you might be hybrid? How many of you will be teaching virtually? Tell me in the chat, what is going on right now for you next year? What is going to be your teaching style? Sunny says hybrid and virtual, in person 100%, hybrid plus virtual, back to in person in all caps, in person 100%. Okay, so we're seeing a lot of in person, which is exciting, right? Hallelujah. But there's going to be some virtual discussion at times. That's unavoidable now, right? Even if you're talking to people outside of your own school for whatever reason, right? So I would take these strategies today. Certainly the focus is virtual presentation, but you can use these same strategies in person too. And one of the biggest strategies I could recommend to you is to continue to ask the audience questions, even questions that they know the answer. Rhetorical questions, simple questions, easy ones. Why do we do that? Why do I keep asking you questions? Because every time I ask you a question, you answer me and it resets your attention. How many of you have sat in a presentation or a speech or a department meeting or something? The person goes on, and even if they get past like 3 minutes, you're gone, right? You're on your phone. They've lost you. The longer they talk without asking you to respond, you're gone, right? How many minutes is it for each of us? Is it 2 minutes, 3 minutes, until you just like, oh, let me check Facebook for a second. Let me check my email. Let me check that text, right? Because if the longer they go, the faster you're going to leave the conversation mentally. You're not going to be there. So the biggest thing I can impress upon you is get into the habit of constantly asking the audience questions. Whatever it is that's going on. The more you ask, the more they stay with you. Not only do they listen to you, but they trust you more. They are drawn closer to the screen or to that in-person environment. So as you move forward with your own presentations, please keep that concept at the forefront. How many of you use that strategy now? That questioning strategy, that interactive all the time, almost that call and response in a religious building, right? Constantly asking from the podium for a response from the audience. It works, right? It keeps us together. Now, the other thing, and somebody mentioned it a second ago, I'll ask the question. There you go, after watching me present last spring. So, question for the group. Right now, am I standing up or am I sitting down? Am I standing or sitting? See a lot of standing. Why would you say that? How do you know? How do you know I'm standing right now? What gave it away? Your posture and your energy, Liz says. When we stand, we have more energy. I think, coming from a broadcasting background, journalism background, when we stand, we breathe more easily and we project better. When we're sitting, we're hunched over. Standing, our chest is open and we're talking. We're projecting. Don't they say all those public speaking lessons, act like you're talking, look at the person in the back of the room, right? That's what they say. Look, you're looking at the back of the room. Well, you got to reach that person with your sound of your voice as well. And even though we're virtual right now and you're all sitting, right in front of me, I still want to project my voice. I want to have energy. I want you to react and respond to my energy. Because if I'm just going to talk and talk and I'm going to have a low key, low energy performance, what are you going to do? You're going to change that channel, aren't you? What else is on? There's got to be something better in my computer than this person talking to me, right? So it's the energy, it's the standing, it's the questions, it's the eye contact, it's all of those things. And if you're going to deliver that presentation for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, you have to be ready mentally to bring that energy. If it's not in your nature, if you're introverted, if you're not that charismatic, that talker, you got to dig in a little bit. You say, I am the one presenting now. And if I want the audience to hear what I'm saying, to understand my message, I have to bring myself up a little bit. If you already live up here, stay right here, right? Don't go way up here. You're going to blow out their monitor, right? But you got to get to a level remembering that whether it's in person or virtual, especially virtual, you have to come with that energy. There's a screen between us. I miss that human interaction. I went to my first in-person networking event yesterday. It was really weird, but it was great. All at the same time. To have that real life interaction, I missed it. It felt like, wow, this is what we used to do. But right now we've got to bring that fire through the screen. So, and again, this is part of that checklist that I mentioned. We'll send to you. A lot of these tips are on that checklist, but I wanted to talk it out because it helps to see and hear and discuss these essential framework of giving a virtual presentation. And if anybody has their own experience with these skills that I'm talking about, let us know in the chat because I'd love for this to be collaborative. I'm not sitting here to suggest that I'm the only person who's ever given virtual presentations. Lord knows you've been doing this for 1.5 years nonstop. So we can learn from each other. But in my experience on camera, live television, now doing live webinars, what works best are these essential framework, this philosophy of asking questions and just constantly staying in front of people so they have to hold on. All right, now, when it's time to end the topic, you end the topic, you get to the next thing, right? We never let something drag for too long. You make your point, you wrap it up, you keep going. So let's move on to something else. And I want to give you a practical exercise that I would love for you to bring to your students at the start of next year, because even though we're going to be in person by and large, how many of your students will still likely have virtual presentations within class, within the school, through competition? How many of you expect, hands up here, we still have to help students deliver effective online presentations next year and probably forever, right? Are we ever going to go back to the world before COVID? What do you think in the chat? Are we going back where we were? Or are we in a brave new world now where it's a mix of virtual and in-person and hybrid, and this is kind of like what it's going to be, right? I think the world we knew is gone, right? It's a strange thing, but here we are. So let's talk about a really great exercise you can do at the start of next year to help students set themselves up for success. We just added it to our program, and it's called creating a personalized virtual background. It's simpler than if you might think, because there are great free tools out there for students to create their own background. And we made a few samples of our own to give you some food for thought. And I would love for you to help students with this exercise in the fall, because it's just easy and it'll give them an edge in their future presentations. Brandy said, our college is told there will never be another snow day. Raise your hand. Who's heard no more snow days in your district or your city? Yeah, it's crazy, right? I hope that they would still do a snow day just because kids need a snow day. Teachers need a snow day, right? Who said you're not allowed to stop and look around for a little bit, right? So we're a new era. So here's an example. And for these, we use the website Canva. Who's ever used Canva before? It's a free tool, and they have templates that are ready-made that students can modify. So here's an example. The student can make a background of their name and maybe a role they play in their student organization. There's all kinds of backgrounds. You can change the color. They can make it up themselves. They can use a template. They can be creative. They can say what they hope to do after they graduate. It's really wide open. They can put a web address. Now imagine a student using this background as they're giving a presentation, or they're competing for a scholarship, competing for competition, whatever the scenario. it would instantly change how that person on the other end views them, right? Because how many of you have been looking at messy bedrooms, or the students have had their camera off all year, right? You have to continually ask them to turn on their camera and you don't see them, right? So we want to give them the tools, and this is not complicated at all. You could do this in 15, 20 minutes with a tool like Canva. They can make their own background and then start adding it on. Thank you, Bethany. There's a free version for educators. That's great. Thank you. So we can help them to look their best all the time. Who cares what's in their background? Who cares what room they're in? If they're in the school, if they're at home, whatever, throw this background up and they look like a young professional. And if you're competing for an opportunity against a lot of top students in your district, in your state, across the country even, again, it's that eye test. It's sad but true. We know this is how the world works. It's people are going to make judgments. And if the student looks the most prepared, they're going to have the best chance. So who's interested in helping students make their own background using Canva or any other graphics tool? Let us know in the chat or hands raised. That's great. We're not about making complicated lessons here, just what works, right? And isn't it true that the simplest stuff often works the best? Who believes that? I do. The simpler, the better, right? Why do we need to make it complicated? Let's just help our students. Help yourself. Make one for yourself. Maybe you've already done. I know I've seen all kinds of backgrounds. We've all seen all kinds of backgrounds. Funny pictures or professional backgrounds or logos for our school, all kinds of things. But this is a way for students to start learning that idea of that personal branding. How many of you teach personal branding within your school or your business programs, personal marketing, professional development, starting to help them say, what is my brand? What do I look like? What do I stand for? And this is a way to start exploring that. Who am I to the outside world in a professional sense? So we'll send these little examples along in that Google folder of resources that we mentioned, so you can have those with you as a reminder of what you could do with your students. It doesn't require a whole lesson plan, doesn't require a million teaching materials. It's just, let's make our own background. Let's have it all school year. And we're going to set ourselves up for success. One thing that we do as a program, we teach students how to make email signatures, which sounds like, how many of you, I'm sure you've had a signature for years. You don't think about it, but students, it's a foreign concept. But once they add that signature to their emails, it changes how the world views them. They look instantly more professional, right? And that could impact the emails that they have answered for opportunities. So it's these little fixes that can change a student's whole path, what doors might open. And this is one more way we want to help students to do that. So thanks to those who found this interesting. And I'd love to see in the fall the types of backgrounds that they make. Our students compete to have the longest signature. Like what you mean, like the most stuff that they're doing on campus, Jennifer? Like who can stack the most stuff? Okay, I love it. Because the more they stick there, the better they look, right? There's a reason behind it. It's not most leaders. I love it, right? It makes a difference because we're judging each other very quickly. It's just the way of the world. And it's not going to change once they get out into the real world either. We know that. It's not. It's only going to get more competitive. All right. So let's switch our thinking now from the optics of how the presentation looks. And instead, let's focus on what we're saying in a real life presentation scenario. One of our tools, we have this little highlighter tool. I meant to turn that on. Let me come back down. Okay. So here we go. One thing that we encourage students to do, and many of you have heard me talk about this a long time, you could probably teach it yourself by now. We do a lot of focus on storytelling in our program, in our materials, in our webinars. How many of you have heard me talk about storytelling? Show of hands. I'm sure it's a few of you because I say it a lot. And there's a reason for it, because stories hold the audience's attention. Stories keep us engaged, and stories prove our point. I say this to students all the time, and I did a session last week with some students from George Mason University, health science, like data informatics students, doing all kinds of cool stuff with the National Institutes of Health and all these great DC agencies. And I said, if you're applying for an internship and you say on the resume or cover letter or in an interview that you're hardworking and you're passionate, I said, how many Young people will use those same two words, or my biggest pet peeve, highly motivated. How many people are going to use those words in an application or in an interview, in a virtual interview, virtual pitch? Tell me, how many you think are going to put on paper or in person, I'm highly motivated, I'm hardworking, and I'm passionate? How many times a day would the recruiter or the audience hear those words? A lot. The answer is all day long. That's just more than 1 million, right? So we teach students, take all those adjectives and throw them away, round them up and get them out of here. And we're going to replace those adjectives with experiences, with stories. We want students to be their most authentic self in all situations. And I want you to apply the same scenario as you're teaching lessons too. Bring it down to the human level, tell a story. So as we're giving virtual presentations, a great fallback strategy is to always lean on stories. Stories of personal obstacles and triumph and success, stories of your team's challenges, whatever the context of the presentation. And a great way to drive this home is to show you a story example that we provide, like a real world example of how to tell a story to underscore your value. So we encourage, and we're going to, not getting into job interviews specifically in this session, but there are plenty of virtual interviews today, right? I mean, how many of your students are doing virtual interviews for internships and jobs right now, or even college admissions? It's all virtual right now. So what can you say in that moment that's going to say, wow, that young person, so dynamic, I loved what they had to say? The answer is you tell a story. So let's look at a story. Oh, there you go. Listen, I just did one for my new job. Hey, how about that? Awesome. Congratulations. So glad that that strategy made a difference. So let's talk about when we're coming into a presentation, we need to have a story, at least one story already selected that we're going to tell. And once you drop into story mode in a presentation, the audience is eating out of your hand. Everything stops. When you start telling a story, everyone locks in. The mood, the room, everything changes when there's a story going on. And why is that? Why do we lean in harder and further when there's a story? Why do you think we do that? Someone's like, yada, 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 yada. And they say, let me tell you a quick story. And everyone goes, boom. Whether it's virtual or in person, why do we do that? As humans, why do we stop and listen when there's a story going on? What does it make us do? Personal connection. And it also makes us, it builds interest and connection. Thank you. It humanizes the situation. It piques our interest too. I like that. It makes us curious, right? It's like, what's going to happen next? Okay, Karen Lynn, I babble with storytelling. All right, so let me show you an example, Karen Lynn, about how to tell a concise story. Because this is really what it comes up. When you're giving a presentation, you practice. You know what you want to say. You're ready with your story. You have it in your head worked out. Not memorized, but you know kind of point A to point B. Okay, you have my attention. Great. Let me tell you a story. So let's give an example in a job interview, or an internship interview, or a scholarship interview, or a competition, extemporaneous speaking. There's a million reasons why you could get asked this question. What is your greatest strength, right? Typical question, right? We've heard that question before. We're not going to answer it with adjectives. We're going to answer with a story. I think my greatest strength is I'm resourceful. Actually, I have a great story about that. A year ago, half of the team at my nonprofit where I worked or interned got sick with the flu. It's an 8-person team. We were down to 4 employees for an entire week. We also had a huge program that weekend, a jump rope for health event for over 250 children. With only 4 of us in the office, we had to use our time and energy wisely. I handled online signups and coordinated with the caterer. I directed 2 of my coworkers to oversee the awards presentation and the music. And our 4th coworker was our intern, Casey. I quickly taught Casey how to work the phones and answer questions from parents and the media. We worked hard that week, but the 4 of us got it done, and the jump rope event was a success. So I like to think I can rise to the challenge, even with limited resources or staff, and not miss a beat. And then the boss says, wow, strong. Tell me, when you heard this story, What are some adjectives that you would use to describe this person? Tell me some adjectives that come to mind. Give me a couple in the chat. What do they demonstrate? What characteristics? Committed, Darlene says. Resourceful. Delegation, good one. Make sure we're doing all panelists and attendees, okay? Focus, team player, leader. Great stuff. Leader. Ooh, I like that, right? This is what it's all about, right? How many students, how many of us say we are a leader? In our bio, in our presentation, in our cover letter, we say we're a leader, right? Everyone says you're a leader, but do they prove it? How do you know someone is a leader? They're just going to tell you they are? I'm a natural born leader. Says who? The next thing out of my mouth is, prove it to me. Don't tell me you're something. I mean, who knows the expression? Show me, don't. What's the next two words? Show me, don't, blank, blank. Show me, don't, tell me. We have to teach students and we have to train ourselves to not be a show me, or to be descriptive, to get down on the ground floor. Don't just say you're something. You have to prove it. So a story is a dynamic, can't lose way to hold the attention of the audience. It's a great way to start a presentation. It's good in the middle. It's good at the end. It doesn't matter where it lands, because as soon as you launch into that story, you have their attention. And as I keep returning to the theme at the beginning, they will not turn the channel, right? We live in a attention-starved society. It gets worse every single day. And so the onus is on us as to teach these skills and to pass on to our students that we have to work hard to maintain someone's attention past 8 seconds, 9 seconds, 10 seconds. That's where we are. But if we're telling stories and if we're engaging and if we're asking questions, people will not only listen to us, they will appreciate that they listened to us. They will be glad they gave us their attention. It won't be a burden. It won't be a chore. It will be appreciated. And I hope that, as educators, we want what we're doing all day long to be valued by our students or parents or the community. But we have to work hard at coming at them with strategies that are going to be successful. Just the fact that we just mean what we say, that's not always enough. So I'm showing you that what works in the world and what works in broadcasting, what works in our media that we love and we absorb all day, we should be applying those same principles to our own jobs. And frankly, I hope it would make the job more enjoyable, and it would make that experience, that teaching and learning, more dynamic. So we all feel like it's time well spent. So again, getting down to that story level is critical, and we'll provide some examples of that in that Google folder. A couple other things to talk about related to virtual presentations. One is making sure that all the little details are covered. How many of you this year have had to correct your students because their display name was a screen name or something inappropriate or not professional? We had to remind them to update it when they're talking to their class. I see some hands going up all the time, and adults too. So it's all the little things, right? They all count. So this is that inappropriate, appropriate. We're really big in our program on examples, right? Show me the bad, show me the good. How can I learn if I don't see it? It's not fair. We can't tell someone to do something and wag our finger without showing them exactly what it is we're after. So as you're seeing from our material, it's very detail-oriented, example-driven, template-driven, how-tos. And this is another good one of making sure that we know that we look our best, because we've given this whole presentation wearing a tie, lighting's good, asking questions, and our name is SportsFan25, right? And the whole time it's undercutting our seriousness. And it's embarrassing, one, and it's going up against everything we're trying to achieve. So it's all the little pieces, especially in a virtual framework where our name is sitting right there in front of somebody. Not something we ever had to think about with an in-person presentation, where our name is like underneath us all the whole time. But now we know it's different. So something else to keep in mind, the display name. And that's a great image to show students at the start of the year. Help them make their background, reiterate that the display name needs to be appropriate at all times. These are the little things that can set them up for success. Let's keep moving here. I want to offer a suggestion. How many of your students have given virtual presentations as a group or have worked in teams in a virtual environment? Sonny says, my kids love their game. Exactly, the gamer names, right? Something that I would offer you, another exercise to kind of keep in the back of your mind to help them with their presentations, but also in the project management, the team building prior to that presentation, is teaching students the power of making sure everyone is heard. And this is a kind of a unique exercise. We like throwing innovative, so different things out at you, and you can make it, you know, what you want. But here's the general premise, that you take the students in a group, maybe it's a group of 3 or 4 or 5, and you tell one student that before they meet as a team, like in a breakout session, virtually or in the class, you say, one of you, I want you to stay quiet. And I want you to contribute as minimally as possible. And I want to see if the group recognizes that you have not spoken yet. And if somebody in that group would say, oh, so-and-so hasn't shared their opinion, what do you think? I don't know what you'd think with your students, if how many of them would recognize the students being quiet or just keep rolling through the meeting and not ever making sure all voices are heard. What do you think? You think half your students would notice and half wouldn't? How many of you think if someone just sat there quietly and didn't say a word and everyone else talked, how many of you think your students would notice that? Or how many think that the meeting would just come and go? Because this plays into that presentation as well. I'm curious what you think, because they would notice more in person than in virtual. I think that's true. Great point, Jennifer. So we want to train students to be aware as leaders, rising leaders, that they need to make sure all voices are heard. And then when it's time for the presentation, we need to make sure that everyone contributes equally. I'd love to know from you how you've helped students manage virtual group presentations, because it's easy for one person to dominate or 2 people to dominate and the other one sort of stand off to the side. And virtually, you're even more obscured, where your camera's off and no one even hears you or sees you. So we want to train them to know that everyone deserves a voice. Everyone deserves a voice. And when it's time to present, everyone should present in equal measure. Everyone should have the same amount of time to talk, because we're learning how to present just as much as we're actually presenting our information. So there's a lot of good team communication, team building, leadership going on. And in the presentation itself, we hear from everyone the same amount of time or as much as is possible. Yes, and Darlene says, let's hear from some of you who haven't shared. And I know that you're probably saying that in a teaching way all the time to the students, like making sure everyone is contributing. But in that group setting where they're in a breakout room and you're not there, right? You don't have eyes on it. It would be easy for one person or 2 people to dominate and everyone else to just sit there, right? And we want to teach students to be mindful of everyone. If you're going to be a leader, you have to look out for people. That's what leadership, a big part of leadership is. It's not just being in charge. It's making sure everyone is included, right? That inclusivity aspect of education. So it's a great little exercise. Again, doesn't require a lot of prep or planning. It's just telling one student from the group before you dive into group activities, hey, I want you to stay quiet for a few minutes, and then we can talk about it as a group. Hey, by the way, we ran a little bit of a social experiment this last 30 minutes, and I asked one person in each group not to talk to see if everyone else would notice. Any hands up about this? Does this seem like something you would actually try? Again, we're trying to push convention a little bit, and we want to make students feel like, oh, I had no idea that was going on. Oh, wow. Like we want aha moments, right? How many of you, when there's an aha moment in the classroom, you know you're getting through? It's like all about those aha moments, and they're hard to find, right? And so we want to give you chances for students to have those aha moments as much as possible. Oh, I never thought about it that way. I never thought about it like that. I never considered that. And that's when the lesson happens, right? That's when they learn something. That's when they leave your class and say, I always remembered so-and-so taught me that, right? We want as many of those moments as we possibly can in that semester, in that year. And it's about not floating the mainstream, not doing what's always been done, coming at it from a different perspective. That's when, that's what we want. I'm trying to keep up with your comment. Make sure we're doing all panelists and attendees. I love all your comments. And who said it? Love the aha moments. That's right. That's what it's all for. One last thing around, let's say it's a presentation, but maybe it's more of an interview style where they have to present on who they are and why they're worth the opportunity. I want to just toss out one other idea. We're going to go into this more around job interview later in the summer, but I want to just touch upon another great strategy to teach students is not only to have their stories ready to show the kind of person they are, but also to have some questions ready for the person they're talking to. It is a completely out of the box move that even senior executives, senior business professionals would not think to do because we're so focused on selling ourselves in a presentation. We don't think about the power of showing the love to others, right? So one thing I would love for your students to practice, and again, we'll get into this later, but while we're here, let's mention it, is we want students to prepare questions about the people who are talking to them. If it's the employer, if it's a panel of judges, if it's a scholarship committee, if you know the person you're talking to, look them up ahead of time, go to their LinkedIn, go to their web address, go look them up on Google or find their social media, find something that they've done recently, something they're proud of, and then reference it back to them. Like, I noticed you started your career in marketing for Ringling Brothers. What was that experience like? I mean, for a young person to come into a room, virtual room or in person, and be able to talk about the adult sitting across from them, having a question about their own career because they looked them up on LinkedIn, that student is halfway to home with whatever opportunity they want. Because what would it mean to that adult who's talking to them if, or even another young person they're talking to, but especially for adults, what would it mean to that adult? What would it say about that young person if the young person has their own questions about the person they're presenting to? What would it say to you? Tell me in the chat. How would it be perceived? It's like, whoa, you knew about my Ringling Brothers background? Wow, that's impressive, right? It shows that Liz said they're serious. They care. They research. And those of you who have been to our webinars in the spring, you know we do that every time, right? What do we always do? How do we always start those sessions? Is we start with research, right? We show how we research our guests, how we make questions for our guests by researching them ahead of time, not in the moment. We visit their website before the moment arrives, right? Keaton says, I always read a professor's research papers before a class so I can talk to them about it. It builds a relationship. Keaton, you're a smart young person, ahead of the game. The fact that you're here right now shows a lot, frankly. So you're exactly right. Now, let's bring it all home. I want to show you something that happened recently that I'm proud of, and I'm proud for the students and for the school, and it really ties a bow on everything we're doing today, okay? That's right, and Liz says it before we hop off this. It happens all the time. They say, do you have any questions for us? Or Liz, what they'll say, have you had a chance to visit our website? Ooh, you want to get stuck flat-footed? They're going to say, have you been to our website yet? And the answer is usually, yeah, I checked it out a little bit as I was coming in. What does that mean? Nope, they did not look. Nobody looks because they want to talk to me. I'm presenting. I'm being interviewed. I'm being chosen. I'll learn about them later. No, you won't. Learn about them the night before. And it could be the difference between landing that opportunity and being told, thank you very much. We had a lot of great applicants. And that's real life. So let's wrap it up here, kind of head towards home with something that happened recently that we put on our company blog. I'm really proud of this. We provide our broader curriculum to a a marketing teacher in Stockdale, California. I'm sorry, in Bakersfield, Stockdale High School. And the students there are involved in an organization called Virtual Enterprises International, VEI. Anybody heard of VEI before? It's a mock business competition. Students have their own businesses throughout the year, and they compete on those businesses at state and national competition. So we had, and thank you, Liz. So we helped over the year teach students these different skills in the classroom throughout the year. And then 2 of the students presented on the sort of HR sort of bylaws of the company as part of a presentation on how to deliver HR rules to a team. And they did it before a panel of judges for a national competition. And guess what? They won first place out of how many? What number is that? What number did I highlight? I told you I ask rhetorical questions, don't I? I know you know the answer, but we're almost an hour into this. I got to keep you with me for the home stretch. 192 schools, and they got first place, didn't they? First place across America. And I watched their presentation because the teacher asked me and a few other business leaders in their community, local community, to kind of watch them in the rehearsal. And they were excellent. I knew they were good. I didn't know they would. I thought, hey, you never know in the national competition, but they got first place. So it goes to show that if you follow these strategies and you have a plan for your presentation, you engage with the audience, you stick to your talking points, you get there from point A to point B. At the end of the day, the judges have only one thing to say: you were the best. And these students, these 2 young ladies, proved it. And now they're national champions. And I think that's pretty great. So we had to put it on our blog, right? We have to share because they are, as we say, they're Rubin students. What we want to say more and more as we move forward, they are Rubin students. They learn from our material and it helped them in a real situation. And I hope that they use that award for their scholarship applications, their college apps, or whatever. I mean, that's a great thing to put on your resume or to talk about in interviews. So kudos to them. So as we wrap up, I want to reiterate some of the things that I mentioned at the very beginning, just for those who may have missed it. Okay, and then we'll wrap up with just some last little questions. So as I mentioned at the beginning, for those who didn't hear it, we put together a collection of resources, many of which we covered today. You can see them on the list: etiquette, sitting or standing, display names, virtual video interview techniques, storytelling examples in a Google folder, free, that you can have. We also have an online presentation checklist showing you step-by-step many of the things we talked about today, but like a quick guide as you're about to go live, as they say, or recorded. And for those of you who missed it, if you'd like these resources, please just go to the chat right now and type the word interested and your email address. If you are new to our community, we love to have a brief conversation to get to know you, learn about your program, learn about what you're doing in the fall, and we'll pass it along. Okay, those of you who have been here before, we don't have to always chit chat, although we're happy to talk to you, but it's really for the new people to our community. We want you to understand what this is all about and help you make sense of it for your future planning. Lastly, a couple last things. And yeah, thank you for your emails. Please send them over and you'll hear from us in the next day or so. And for those who are new to us, we'll send a Google invitation for 5 minutes in the next couple of days. So look out for that in your email, please. So if those of you who are going to watch this on a recording, please, and you want these same resources, please type email support@rubineducation.com with the subject line Rubin Worksheets. Okay. Finally, our next summer learning series session will be in 2 weeks. We're going to cover exceptional resume and cover letter, one of our favorite topics. And I love talking about the storytelling approach. We have students who use that around the country and it's helping them open doors. It's such an exciting change of pace. So we'd love to have you join us June 16th, 11:30 in the morning, 8:30 Pacific. Just similar vibe to today. Just giving out resources, talking through strategies, putting the recording on YouTube. You can access it later, of course. And for everybody here today, we'll send you a certificate tomorrow morning. You can add your name to it if you'd like to, and you can use it for your professional development. your continuing education credit. It's they're for you. So those are all the housekeeping notes, and I'll pop back here. We have just a few more minutes, and I missed something in the chat. Somebody put a very nice note in the chat about our program, and I can't actually tell who said it, but thank you for that. And again, we appreciate all of you being here over the fall and spring, now into the summer, and it's our way of connecting. You know, yesterday I went to this in-person networking event, and it was like so nice to be able to talk to people, make connections, have conversations in person. And I know we're getting closer to that, but we're not there just yet. So we still have to make it all happen like this. So I'm always grateful that you'll give us an hour of your time, especially now in the summer months when you probably don't want to even think about school anymore, but you're willing to come and give us a little bit of time and learn with us. And I want to just a quick poll as we wrap up. How many of you intend to go to the National CTE Conference in New Orleans in December? Anybody going to be there? We hope to be there. I'm going to present. We hope to have a booth. So this could be the first big opportunity to be together again. So hopefully you can make it there, or we'll see you on the road at other events. But that seems like, at least on our schedule, the first sort of big one on our calendar that looks like it's going to happen. And so maybe we'll get one in-person event in before the end of 2021. And then hopefully 2022, it becomes more of a normal-ish year, but we're not there just yet. Brandy says, hoping to if school allows travel. So I hope we can all actually say hello in person. Wouldn't that be so nice? All this time we give these sessions and we don't get to see each other. I don't see all of you. You're seeing my talking head, but I don't get to see all of you. And it'll be nice to put faces to names when we get there. So we will wrap up here. If anybody has any last questions, throw it in the chat. Thanks for all of your wonderful comments, and thanks for engaging with me over this past hour, right? I probably asked you like 150 questions, right? I should probably keep track of that. Maybe Mac, next time we'll keep track of how many questions I ask, because, per minute or per hour, maybe there should be a good ratio here of how many questions per hour should you be asking the audience, because the more we ask, the more we stick with the speaker. And I appreciate all of you. I hope you have a really nice rest of your week. If you're on the West Coast, your day is just gotten started. You already got your PD out of the way, right? How about that? How about a super productive day for you on the West Coast? So thanks, everybody. And we'll see you in 2 weeks for resume and cover letter. Have a great rest of your day.